For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Welcome, everybody, to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Emily Faye. How's it going today, Emily?
Hello. Good, thank you. Yeah, good. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. I'm really excited to sit down and chat with you. Rachel reached out to me, what was it, back in April, I want to say, about trying to get you on the podcast. And then I lost the email, as I typically do. And then last week I was like, wait, I've got a Sunday open. Who do I have? And then I saw you pop up in my spreadsheet of people that I needed to contact. And I was like, oh, she's got a single coming out. Perfect. That just works. So yeah, that's kind of how that one worked out. But
amazing. Really, it was meant to be.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm really excited to sit down and chat with you, get to know more about you. And yeah, just kind of go around the world that is this crazy thing that we call music.
Yeah.
Before we jump into your new single that dropped on Friday and all the fun stuff that you're doing, kind of take this minute to introduce yourself to everybody that's just getting to meet you for the first time, kind of a brief introduction into who you are and what you're about.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So my name is Emily Faye and I'm from the UK and I'm a singer-songwriter. Songwriting is one of my favorite things to do ever. And yeah, I've released maybe 12 or 13. I think this is the 13th songs now over the course of maybe 5 years. And yeah, I'm still kind of trying to decide what my sound is going to be. But currently it's a blend of country pop. So yeah, that's me really in a nutshell.
Awesome. So who first introduced you to music?
So when I was a kid, my dad made me a mixtape with some of his favorite songs on. And I remember there being this one song that I loved. And it was when I had like a little Walkman. He'd got me like a Walkman. Yeah. This maybe shows how old I am maybe now. But no, yeah, I had this Walkman, I had this mixtape that he'd made me, and one of my favorite songs ever was on it. So there was like Fleetwood Mac, there was The Sweet, like there was anything from country to rock to pop to like there was kind of everything on there. Mm-hmm. And my favorite one was a song called Where Have All the Cowboys Gone by Paula Cole. And I just remember listening to that song over and over. But yeah, classically, they did say to me, Mum and Dad said I just used to sing instead of talking, I'd sing. So I just feel like I've just loved music my entire life, really.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I remember the Walkmans. I don't think I ever had a Walkman as a kid. I kind of skipped that and went straight to the Discman, which is...
Yeah.
But I remember remember a lot of friends having the Walkman. So
yeah, I think I've literally only had it for like 1 year or something, and then the disc one came out, so I switched. But I just will never forget this mixtape with some amazing songs on it.
I remember in grade school I had a stereo that I would take CDs, and because this was before you could like burn CDs, so you had to take the CDs
oh my gosh.
And copy it over into a disc, a cassette tape. And so it was like my way of making mixtapes, but it was one of those things where it would take you legit for like as doing mixtapes would, but
yeah,
it was I remember those days. Good times. So
yeah, good times.
Awesome. So kind of at what point did you start exploring your own musical journey? Where did you kind of start picking up? I'm assuming it was guitar that you started playing on, or
piano I started on actually. Yeah, so when I was 7, I had piano lessons, and I used to hate practicing. I used to really hate practicing, but I loved my lessons. And when I was about 12, my piano teacher said to me, basically I was doing the grades, so I did like grade 1 and 2, and then I really got so nervous in the grades that I would mess up and play something wrong and have to start again. And it was just, I just remember that being really horrible. Like this examiner sitting with you, I just hated it. So I started kind of saying to my teacher, I don't really want to do grades anymore. They're too, it's too much.
Yeah.
It's too pressurizing. Anyway, and then so then he said, oh, why don't you go home and write a song then? And I was like, okay. And then I came back the next week with 2. Then he took me into the studio. We recorded them. And that was literally when my songwriting started. And I just kind of used it as my diary for my teenage years, because at the end of the day, usually you start songwriting because you've got something you need to get out, And that's exactly what happened with me, really.
Awesome. So when you first got that assignment to go home and write a song because you were kind of tired of the structure that was, I'm going to just call it music class in general.
Yeah.
Who did you listen to, or how did you kind of construct the song? Were you just kind of guessing, or were you listening to certain things to kind of get a feel for how to do this?
No, I literally knew I chose 4 chords on the piano. I just kind of played around the piano with what sounded good, and then I just wrote how I was feeling. So like my first song was like, the chorus was like, is it something special? Are we meant to be? Is it something special? Does he really love me? Literally that times 2 was the chorus.
Nice.
But it was, it was a song, but obviously I was having boy trouble at the time, maybe. But yeah, I can't really remember, to be honest, who that was about. But yeah, I think it's just the trials and tribulations of the teenage world and navigating love and all of these emotions that you go through. Like being a teenager is so hard, and that just gave me a complete release, a safe place to put my emotions. And I guess I was obviously feeling really creative, and I was just kind of letting it all out, at the same time. Yeah.
I guess I don't have to ask if you remember your first song, because you just,
there was another one. The other one after that was like something like, I'm your Mary Jane Spider-Man. Something mega cringe like that.
Hey, I'm assuming the Spider-Man movie may have just come out.
I think so. Yeah, I think I'd watched it. We'd rented it from Blockbuster. Good times with my dad and brother. So yeah, I think that had just come out. So I wrote about that. But yeah, just crazy.
That's awesome. I love it so much. That's amazing. So you go through this first, we'll call it an assignment of writing a song, and you come back with 2. What was the feedback, and where do you kind of go from there?
Yeah, so I think he was quite shocked that I'd come back with these 2 full songs. And to be honest with you, if I'm going to self-critique them, the melodies were good, the lyrics were terrible. But for the first songs that I ever wrote, they weren't, as bad as some songs might be. Oh, yeah. so he, my piano teacher was so encouraging, and he basically took me into a recording studio and we recorded them. So I've literally got them on CD somewhere. And then I also performed them at the piano teachers. He did like a concert every year, and I performed them with a bass player and a drummer at his concert, which was very cool. And they were session musicians, and they were amazing. And then there was me playing piano and singing.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Good times.
And then you do that, and where do you kind of go from there? Do you continue taking classes to learn like the basic music theory and how to write and all that stuff?
Yeah, so then I started singing lessons, and then I also I heard this artist here in the UK called Holly Rogers. I got given her CD from my auntie, and she's a Cornish artist, and this was when I was about 14. And she played guitar and sang, so then I was like, right, I'm going to play guitar as well. So then I self-taught myself some chords on guitar. I just used my mum's like old classical guitar. And then one Christmas, I got my first guitar for Christmas. And that's when my writing kind of went over to guitar. I kind of do a bit of both now, but guitar you can take anywhere with you, whereas obviously it's a bit harder to lug a piano or a keyboard. So that's when writing on guitar was born as well, when I was about 13, 14. Awesome. Just carried on writing, really. I think I just really enjoyed the outlet.
Yeah, for sure. You're not the first musician to tell me that they switched from piano to guitar so they could like move around a little bit easier, because even a keyboard, like, those things are brutal.
Totally.
And especially if you want to travel by plane and stuff, it's a little bit easier to bring on an airplane, it's not easy to bring a guitar anyways, but it's easier than a keyboard. So
Yeah, or if you know, if you know how to play guitar, there's always somebody who has a guitar you can borrow wherever you go. There's always a guitar knocking around somewhere.
And there's not always a piano or a
No.
keyboard anywhere. So
No, exactly.
so you go through this process and you transition over to playing guitar and all that stuff. Where do things kind of go from there? Is this like right around the time you start releasing the ride, or where does the ride come into?
Gosh, no, the ride was about a long time after that. So I didn't actually like release any music until I was at uni. So I went to BIM London, which was called Tech Music School for a couple of years when I first went, and then it changed over to BIM London. And it's basically like a music uni. And I did a year, so right from school. So I was 18 and I did a year in vocals. So that was learning songs, singing them with a band and all of that kind of thing, and learning how to harmonize and everything. And then I did 3 years of a degree of songwriting. And I think it was the last year or maybe the year before that. Yeah, I released The Ride with my good friend, Elliot Joseph. Yeah, we basically just wrote that song together on our first ever writing session. And then I was like, cool, let's do it. Let's release it. So yeah.
Awesome. So we skipped over a whole bunch there. I thought maybe we were transitioning smoothly into the ride. But so before you did that, you were just kind of doing cover songs, or were you still writing and then just kind of trying to figure out what you wanted to write? Like what was the thought process in between transitioning from guitar to releasing the ride?
Yeah, so I mean, there was a lot of learning. So I was writing all the time and doing some covers gigs in the local pubs and stuff before I went to uni. And then I went to uni and I was learning music, learning the theory, learning how to harmonize, how to write better songs, how to write a better structure, what the most important thing is to consider when writing a song, and basically all of those, and meeting all the people that I needed to meet for when I left and was in the music world, right? So basically the connections I made at that university were just the main thing I took out of that was like the people that I've met. They're still in my band today, all the people I met at uni. So yeah, it's just it was just so valuable having that connection. And yeah, throughout my time at uni, I was still writing, performing at songwriters' nights, open mics, all of that kind of thing, because they really encouraged that. And then when it was kind of, I was like, oh, my final project in university was to write and didn't release it, but submit to my uni board. I had to write and release an album. So we did that. I recorded, released, or didn't release, but submitted an album. And and just carried on basically writing the whole time I was at uni and working with different people, and a guitarist that was in my band, and he was coming up with all these epic riffs, and I was writing to them, and it was just great. It was great fun. And
so this album, you released it enough to qualify as a released album, but then pretty much. So
I recorded 8 tracks with my friend Jake. We recorded 8 tracks with the band, everything. And I had to do like a written essay, big written essay to go with it, critiquing what I'd do differently next time for my album. I had to do like the album artwork, everything like that. And luckily, the producer, Jake, he had to submit the same thing for his project because he was doing the production course. So it just literally, I lucked out that we could work together on the project. So he obviously submitted it for his on the production front, and I did it for the songwriting front. So that was kind of the next big thing I was working on, and I think you can still find some of the songs from that on YouTube. Actually, we performed them around London and stuff like that. But so
you didn't end up re-releasing any of the songs later on down the road, or are they still sitting in the back pocket to be revisited at some point?
Yeah, I mean, some of them have like awesome guitar riffs and like really hooky stuff in them. So I think I might maybe put them as basically my ultimate dream is to do an album one day. And I think I would love to do like a side A and a side B, or even just have like a secret vault of songs
Yeah.
from the past and future and stuff, if they're good enough, you know. So yeah, so I think they're great in terms of the riffs, but I think the lyrics and stuff that I'd written then could probably be changed and made a bit better now. So and yeah, they're sitting there.
It'd always be interesting to go back and just see how the lyrics as they are kind of matured over time, and then how you'd go back in and reword them and whatnot, just because you know, obviously as you get older, your perspective on things changing, because these songs weren't ever officially released. You could go back and make them whatever you want them to be, especially if there's points in the song that you really enjoy. Like you mentioned, a couple of them have really good guitar riffs, or maybe some of them have a really cool hook, or, you know, just whatever it is. So you know, that might be something cool to go back and look at down the line.
Definitely. So, one day for sure.
Awesome. So then in 2016 you released your debut single. Well, is that okay? And then so from there you're just kind of going through singles. You released an EP, Here I Am, right, in 2018. What was kind of the learning process going into releasing that EP? I know you had released an album in school. We had just talked about that, but what did you take away from that experience, and how did you apply it to the EP in 2018?
Oh gosh, yeah. So the EP, we actually recorded in Nashville, and it was a complete different recording experience to here in the UK. In that, here in the UK, you know, you spend a day doing the guitars, you spend a day doing the drums, you spend a day doing the bass or whatever, or a few days sometimes, depending on how many tracks you're doing. And then you spend a day doing the vocals and the backing vocals and all of that. So it's like if you're doing one track, say it's like a 5 or 6 day process for one track, or it can be, depending on how you do it. And in Nashville, they do it completely differently. They just, it was just incredible. So we spent one day in pre-production, charting out the songs, like chords and things for the session musicians. We did 3 songs. They came in, literally 3 hours, all the music was done. It was just the vocals that I needed to do the next day. And I was just like, what? Like, I can't believe it. It's done in 3 hours, not 3 days, 3 hours. So
that's how Nashville is. Nashville is very incredible. Just like, time is money to them. So the more they can get done in a day, the better. So
I mean, I absolutely loved it. I was just absolutely in awe of these players, and it was just the most incredible experience. I think they played like, there's 3 songs, say they played like one of them 3 times, and the rest they got it in like 1 or 2 takes. So it was just ridiculous. And they all played as a band all together, rather than doing each thing separately like we did here in the UK for the ride, for example. They played it all together, and I was just in awe. And then then we got home, and I recorded Me for Me, which is the 4th track on there. We recorded that at a studio in where was that? Southend-on-Sea, and just got that done, kind of acoustic vibes, just to top it all off. And just madness, absolute madness.
You had to experience the magic of Nashville firsthand. Was that,
oh my gosh, it was incredible.
Was that the first time you had been to Nashville, or had you gone to Nashville prior?
First time, and I'd love to go back one day.
You haven't been back since?
No, I haven't. I was kind of toying with the idea of going back in 2020, because it was kind of the year I'd like quit my part-time job that I was doing to go into music full-time. And then the pandemic kind of striked. So obviously didn't get to do anything that I'd planned.
For sure. So Nashville's cool. It's kind of funny how many UK artists come over to Nashville. It's really interesting. And, you know, just a lot of similar stories to what you'd mentioned. They go in to record. Usually it's a couple of singles. It's not usually a full EP or whatever, just because money and whatnot. Obviously you spent a whole bunch of money to come over to Nashville, but and they're all in awe with how quickly it gets done. And then it's like, well, these musician players are professionals. They do this all the time. And it's like, they can learn a song. They know how to learn a song. So it's really cool and interesting to watch. But no, hopefully you do get to make it back to Nashville. Nashville's a cool spot, and I'm hoping that I get to Nashville within the next couple of months, because it's been over 2 years since I've been to Nashville, obviously with
Yeah.
2020 being what 2020 was. So
Yeah.
made things interesting
Madness.
for sure. So you just recorded that EP there, and then you came back to the UK and kind of recorded the rest of your music while you were in the UK. So like,
yeah. So we did 3 tracks in Nashville, and then we did one of them back home to kind of make it 4-track EP, and then set about releasing that. And the single Open Road that got into Rolling Stone magazine, which was epic. Yeah, that's my claim to fame now. Nice. No, honestly, I can't believe that happened. My PR company basically sent me a message, and they were like, we've got this interview questions for you to answer for Rolling Stone magazine. And I was and they were like, but don't get too excited. It's just, it might not happen. Yeah. I was like, okay. And to be honest, I was so tired because I've been gigging. I've been doing like every festival that summer, and I was just exhausted. Yeah. And so I answered these questions, and I just got my mum like to check over them to make sure I didn't sound like an idiot. And and then I sent them off, and obviously my PR company checked them as well. Anyway, and then like a couple of days later, here's the link to Rolling Stone magazine. And I was like, what? And they were like, they liked your song. So, so they chose to put you in. And I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. Awesome. So yeah.
We did that for a little bit on Live and Amplified. We have a website, and we're trying to get a digital thing going. Yeah. And so I was doing that for a little bit. And then I realized that a lot of the musicians just either didn't care, or they weren't like, they're just giving me like super basic answers. So it's like, yeah, okay, that's not really riveting reading. Like so was this Rachel that got this, or was this a previous PR company?
It was a previous PR company called Limetree. I think they work a lot with artists in the US now. Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. It was 10 years ago. Yeah.
That's awesome. And as I'm looking through your Spotify link here, I can't believe I missed this song, because this is a saying I used to say all the time: sucks to be you. I used to say that all the time in high school, and I can't believe I didn't pick that up as I was going through your playlist before you jumped on
brilliant.
Here. That's
brilliant.
Amazing. So kind of fast forwarding a little bit, after you release the EP, you release some singles, 2020 happens. And how does kind of 2020 change your musical journey?
Yeah, well, like I said before, it was the year I was going to do music full time. So music was going to be my only job. And I'd been working up to that for a long time. I'd been making all the connections, going to all the networking nights, doing all the things you need to do in order to make that happen with original music. So this wasn't including any covers gigs or anything like that. And yeah, I had this whole plan to record some new music basically before the pandemic, I was like a serious planner. So I'd have like everything ready for the next year. So I'd be a year ahead. But now, the pandemic kind of taught me that that's not always possible to be such a planner. So I lost all my gigs, obviously, and was kind of like, oh, what now? So I actually started it's like a social media company. And that was literally how I survived the pandemic. I basically got some clients who needed help with their social media, or I had to build them a social media presence from scratch, or they just don't have any time for it, so they'd rather pay someone to do it. So that's literally how I survived the pandemic. I just started that, kind of as a side hustle to music. And that's what got me through, basically. And obviously did loads of live gigs, loads of live streamings. Oh gosh, so many. Like everybody was doing that.
Were you doing that on Facebook, or were you doing that somewhere else?
Facebook, Instagram, literally wherever anybody wanted me to do it. I did it in some private groups, like because like these exercise groups were, these from home exercise groups were like putting on stuff to cheer people up. So I was like doing some of those, and just kind of doing anything I could to keep the music going. Nice. And obviously loads of Zoom songwriting sessions as well.
For sure. Was that something that you picked up while in Nashville, was the songwriting sessions, or is that something you'd been doing prior to that?
Songwriting, yes. So I started songwriting sessions like with co-writes with other people a bit before Nashville. Yeah. So I obviously did some in Nashville when I was there.
Mhm.
And then before that, I did maybe a year or two before that, I started writing with other people. So one of my friends, Jake Morrell, I remember messaging him like, hey, you probably don't know me and you probably get this all the time, but do you want to do a writing session? And then he replied saying, yeah, of course, that sounds great. And I was so shocked and I was like, okay, cool. And then I picked him up to go for the first writing session. This was like 2017. And I had just moved to Guildford at that time. And I just like drove like round this roundabout 4 times because I couldn't remember which exit I had to go off to get home. And then we wrote a song called The Long Way Round. It was just hilarious. But yeah, so I kind of started co-writing around, 2017, 2016. Yeah. Well, I guess writing with Elliot sparked off the co-writing for me. But yeah, and just hilarious. But yeah, I wanted to make sure I kept on co-writing, and obviously it was made easier because everything got switched to Zoom because there was no choice. So I could co-write with people in Nashville without having to leave my house, or before the pandemic, I was driving like an hour or 2 hours or whatever just to do a writing session. So obviously Zoom has made that a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure. Zoom's definitely made things super easy, and as much as the pandemic sucked, it opened up a lot of people's like doors, I guess. That's not the word I wanted to use, but just like all the new people that you work with, and it's been absolutely amazing. Like, had it not been for the pandemic, we probably wouldn't be having this podcast right now. I'd be over here somewhere just doing it in person with somebody here locally in Texas where I'm based out of. So that's kind of how it was. That's awesome. So pandemic hits, puts your plans of going back to Nashville on hold, taking music full-time on hold. And obviously, I was going to say this earlier. I think just you mentioned before the pandemic that you were like a serious planner. You like to have everything kind of written out. So you kind of had a roadmap to where you were going. I used to be the exact same way. And then the music industry in general just beat that out of me. Like now it's like, I'll get a phone call in 20 minutes saying, hey, you want to go to this show? Sure, let's go. Like, I don't plan anything anymore. And it sucks because I really enjoyed knowing where I was going. Yeah. But between the music industry in general and 2020, it's like, yep, you can't plan anything. So, but it's sad. But sorry. Oh, so kind of fast forwarding a little bit, you released a couple of singles during 2020, 2021 during the pandemic, and bringing up to present day, the new single that you just released on Friday, which is When It Comes to Leaving. What's the story behind this song?
So this was written on Zoom during one of the 4, I think we had 4 lockdowns or 3 lockdowns here in the UK. So during one of the many lockdowns here in the UK, with a girl called Jess Whiston. And basically I had this Zoom session with her booked in, and I was really kind of thinking about what I wanted to write about for that session. And I kind of came up with this idea of that feeling of when you leave someone you love or a place you love, and how for like a little while all you want to do is stay and you just really don't want to go. And I guess I experienced that quite a lot because my fiance lives in Jersey in the Channel Islands, so it's a 45-minute flight to go and see him. So for the past 8 years I've been back and forth, and it's it can be quite unsettling, and it is sometimes. It's really hard, and that feeling of leaving the people you love, I'm leaving him, or I'm leaving, my friends there, and then I'm leaving my family here and my friends here. And it's just like that feeling is hard. It's a hard feeling, and I have it all the time. So I actually wrote the song with Jess, and then it ended up being my source of comfort on the plane. So it would be the song I'd listen to on the plane to kind of psych myself up for the change that was coming of being somewhere else. So and then I just thought, oh my gosh, if this gives me comfort, maybe it'll give someone else comfort in their time of need as well. So so that's kind of why I decided to release it in the end.
Awesome. And so you wrote this during one of the many lockdowns. When did you record it? Like, what? Yeah, when did you end up recording it? Obviously, not in a lockdown situation, but how long did you
No,
record this?
I literally, right. So my friend Tim, who produced it, Tim Potty Jones, I basically sent him a message in March and I said, look, I've got this song. I want to get it out in May, the 27th of May. I want it to come out. Do you think we can make this happen in that short amount of time? So if I give you the deadline of the 8th of April, this was maybe like 5th of March or something. I was like, so you've got 1 month. Like, we've got 1 month to do this. And he was like, yeah, totally doable. This is how much it'll be for the track. I'll get all the instrumentation done. You can come and do the vocals when it's ready to do vocals. And I was like, okay, sweet. And then I said, oh, please, can you make sure if you're going to use session musicians, use my guitarist who's in my band, and my bass player who's always in my band, you know, because I didn't want him to not use them because, you know, they deserve to be part of the record, you know? So, so he basically, I think it was maybe 3 weeks later, I went and did the vocals, and it was like this. Obviously, he kept me in the loop as we went, and he was like, you know, this is what it sounded like so far. And, you know, and I had like a guitar idea I wanted him to add in. And just some of the things I heard, I kept like sending to him. And yeah, we just kind of did it. So we did it remotely, apart from the vocals, which I went in to do. And yeah. And then, yeah, we had it done, got it done actually by the 6th of April.
Okay.
And that's when it went to mixing. So yeah, so then Adrian worked his magic and it was done. And then I uploaded it 8th of April, and then it came out 27th of May. So
awesome. That's really quick. Like, that's not quite Nashville speed to get stuff done, but still, that's really quick for just in general to put a single together.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I was really umming and ahhing, you know, oh, is this the right one to release? And then I was just like, you know what, stop thinking about it and go with the songs that you have connection to, you know? So that's what I was doing. And I also was kind of like, do I want it to be country? Because my last song was more pop. So I was like, is it bad to dip my toe back into country a little bit more? And then I was like, the song suits like a Stevie Nicks kind of vibe. So I was like, that's what we're going to go for. So yeah, I sent him some reference tracks of like Stevie Nicks, a bit of Maren Morris, a bit of Tennille Towns, basically these hardcore female powerhouses that I love. So yeah, and then it was born, and it was just, it was a wicked process. I mean, it was so quick. I was so impressed. And obviously it needed to be because I'd given him this deadline. But yeah, it's great. I love the song, and I'm really proud of the song. So yeah.
Awesome. Was there a specific moment that you kind of had that realization to stop double guessing yourself when it came to releasing songs? Or was
I do it all the time. Honestly, I second guess myself all the time. So now especially, I think it's since the pandemic, to be honest with you. Before the pandemic, I was a lot more sure on what my vision was, where I wanted to go, or I feel I was then maybe, but no, I definitely am very much now like, what am I doing? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? But then it's also very easy to get other people's opinions in your head, you know, and write something not for you anymore, but for, they might like this, you know, whereas that kind of reduces your authenticity, and you need to just write for you and then hopefully put it out in the universe, and hopefully they'll love it, you know? So yeah, focusing on that a little bit more, just what feels good to me. Yeah.
And as long as you continue to listen to that, kind of a callback to earlier when you said you're still trying to figure out what kind of sound you want to have as a musician. I think as long as you continue to listen to yourself and be authentic to who you are, I don't think like a genre really matters. Like, you'll just kind of be Emily Faye. Like, that's because in this day and age in music, there's so many subcategories of like country so you have country music, but then there's 1,000 subcategories of, well, we're not really country music, but so it's interesting. So as long as you stay authentic to you and don't really worry about, oh, is this too country? Is this not country enough? Is this too pop? I think you'll be all right. So
yeah, totally. That's what everybody said, stop putting yourself in a box and just do what you want to do. Like, I mean, look at Taylor Swift. She's done whatever she wants to do all along the line, So she's done a bit of everything really, apart from like heavy rock.
Yeah.
So I was just like, you know what? Yeah, I'm just gonna do what I want to do and see what happens. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like there's a musician that's based out of Atlanta, Georgia, that I had on the podcast a little over a month ago. She had just released a new single and somebody put her in the box of new disco.
Yeah.
Which it, like, you listen to the song, it's like, okay, I get, like, I don't know, maybe it's disco, I don't really know. And she's like, I wasn't trying to be a disco queen, but maybe I am, I don't know. But it's just interesting because I think a lot of people feel this need to put things in categories so they know how to feel about it, which is unfortunate. But it's I really enjoy When It Comes to Leaving. It's a good song. I was playing it all morning as I was making breakfast and kind of running through your playlist and stuff. So it's a really cool song, and I really dig your vibe and can't wait to see what you got coming up as far as like new music. You'd mentioned that you have the aspiration of doing a full album.
One day.
What's that?
One day. Yeah. I'm not sure when, because it's expensive to record music, you know, but that's the dream, the ultimate dream.
Is finances kind of like the big hurdle that you're trying to overcome, or is there something else why you haven't started working towards that goal?
Yeah, it's mainly just it's mostly just the money, you know, how much it costs to put a single out, you know, and obviously with streaming, you're not getting recouping as much of that. So that's the main thing for me, really. But I have I've started a secret song club on Patreon, which is where people can pay £5 a month to get like 2 secret demos from me a month, and they also get all this other bonus stuff like videos like that nobody else has access to. And they also get to hear my singles first and have a decider on what the next song should be and things. So that really helps in terms of that. You know, any money from that will go straight into new music and just fill up the pots, you know. So that was a way of kind of creating this monthly income from music. But yeah, it's a kind of a bit of everything for me. It's finances and also knowing what the next song is going to be and have I written one that's good enough, you know. And if I was going to do an album, I'd probably want to have maybe 70 songs to choose from, or you know, like a huge amount of songs to choose from to make sure the very best ones are on the album.
So how many songs do you have? Like, if you had a book of written songs, how many songs would you say you have right now?
Right now I'd probably have 100 and something.
Okay.
But obviously some of those have been released already. I'd probably have, and also some of those probably wouldn't be that good. But I do this thing called 5-Minute Song Friday on my Instagram. So every Friday I write a song in 5 minutes and I set a timer, and the audience gives me a subject and I set this timer and off I go, and I write a song in 5 minutes, just like a verse and chorus. And that has opened up, well, my song Summer Feeling was born from a song from that challenge. And I've also written a song that went down really well about a PlayStation. So nice. So those 2 songs I finished. But if you think about, maybe I've done 47 songs so far on that. 2 I've finished. 2 have been good enough to finish, in my opinion. Wow. Nice. So it really is kind of it really takes a few songs to have a few gems, you know. For gems in there.
How did you come up with that idea of like the 5-minute songwriting session? Because I've not seen anybody do that. Like, I've seen a couple of people do, like, they'll write a new song every day, and it's usually just like what you said, a verse chorus, but they just come on and perform the song on Facebook Live or whatever it is, and that's kind of it. But how did you come up with the idea of doing a 5-minute songwriting session?
So basically, I think I was in isolation because I just flown from the UK to Jersey in between one of the lockdowns, and I had to isolate. So I was in isolation for like 10 days or whatever. And I basically ended up like going on my Instagram, just being like, somebody give me a challenge to do. Like, somebody give me some challenges. So someone write a song about coffee. So I basically just like sang this song on Instagram about coffee. And then from that, they basically said to me, this was a fan, and he basically said, you should do this, like set a timer for 5 minutes and write a song. And I was like, okay, sure, I'll do that. I'll start doing that. So every Friday I started to do that. And then I was like, I'm going to do it for a year. So obviously there's been some Fridays where I've been too busy or I've been traveling or whatever. So I haven't done a song. So I'm on like number, I think I said 47. I think it's 47. When I get to 52, I'm going to kind of let the audience decide if they want me to continue that feature or if it's time for something new. But I have a feeling they're going to want me to continue it. And I'm going to be like, oh God, for another year.
Hey.
But I mean, it's so good for my songwriting brain. It really is. So yeah,
it keeps you on your toes and it gives you the ability to kind of adapt, and it expands your creative palette. Yep, that's the word I'm going to roll with, which is really cool. It sounds like you'd almost need to every Sunday we release a songwriting prompt. It's something that I started doing about 6 months ago, because I'd come on this podcast and ask musicians, so where are you kind of at creatively? And it seemed like everyone was like, well, I'm kind of in a creative funk right now. I'm like songwriter's block, whatever it is. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try and change that. And so I made up this really basic looking graphic, and I just put in write a song about whatever, and I release it every Sunday now. So I'm still waiting for somebody to write something good enough that they feel is good enough to record or play or anything.
Well, what's today's one then?
I have not released it yet, but a little sneak peek is write a song about a haunted bakery.
A haunted bakery. Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe
like,
I'll put that on my list for Friday then.
It's one of those things where it's some of them are really easy. Like I think a couple, like maybe it was right around Valentine. I don't remember exactly when I released this one, but it was write a love song without referencing the word love.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, it like that one I feel like is pretty common, like stuff like that. So
yeah,
it's been fun for me because now I'm kind of deep in the archives of, okay, what can we get them to write about? Because I got a lot of the like common ones out there. Now it's like, all right, let's start diving deep and make this interesting. So
yeah, I've never had haunted bakery before. What have I done? I've done the biscuit aisle. I've done PlayStation. I've done sausage and mash. I've done like rainfall, English weather. I've done all of those.
Yeah.
But never haunted bakery. That's brilliant.
It was one that I've wanted to put out for a while, but then I was just like, man, maybe that's just too specific or, whatever. But it's just like, you know what, this week, let's put it out there. So,
yeah, well, I feel like you could write about like at night when the lights go off in the bakery, all the food comes alive or something.
Yeah.
That'd be funny.
You said that the PlayStation song that you wrote during this 5-minute writing session, that was one that you ended up actually finishing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because it went down so well. Everyone was like, you have to finish it. So I did. Yeah, and there's a video, I think it's on YouTube actually, or on my Instagram of that. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go find this because I'm all about the PlayStation. So
yeah, well, so basically my fiance, he has a PlayStation 5, and I actually wrote the song kind of as if the PlayStation 5 was another woman, basically. So yeah, that's all I was saying. You can,
okay.
you can go and check it out.
I'm going to go find this one and check it out. That's awesome. So, so you're kind of going through this, I don't want to say creative word vomit, but that's just kind of my lack of words this morning. As you're doing the 5-minute songwriting sessions, and then just kind of like your normal creative outlet of writing, doing co-writes, all that stuff. And you're working towards this full-length album, which is you're trying to find the right songs, but you're also concerned because it's a streaming world right now, So that's all very interesting. What are you kind of doing as far as like live shows right now? Do you have a lot of shows on the books, or because I think that's kind of where you'll find the value of having a full album is
totally. Like is touring it, right? Yeah, exactly. So at the moment, a lot of the like festivals and a lot of the kind of events that are happening here are still being carried over from 2020. So I didn't really apply for any festivals or anything this year, because I kind of just thought I just really want to write some songs and really plan
Yeah.
plan what I'm going to do and what I'm going to release next, and then tour and play gigs when I've got something new to sell and to release.
Yeah.
So obviously I've done this single. I mean, it could be that I do a couple more singles and put them all on a CD. It could be that, you know, I maybe earn enough money to be able to fund this album, or in some way manage to fund an album, because that would be amazing. And then exactly, I would book a tour, book everything I need to in order to promote the album. So yeah, so that's kind of partly why, because I didn't have much going on in terms of newness, you know, and everybody wants the next new exciting thing all the time. That was kind of why I was a bit hesitant on booking loads of like festivals, because I just really want to focus on the next steps, like you said, and and just kind of work out where I'm going, what I'm doing since the pandemic, really. And obviously I'm always creating, always writing, and then doing covers gigs as well as like bread and butter as well now. Now they're back. So yeah, I'm just kind of trying to find my feet again, I suppose, still a bit after the pandemic, because I mean, everybody's kind of suffered from that, really. But I think also my confidence, you know, going back out to do a show after the pandemic, after having not done one for so long in person, was an amazing feeling. Like, the best feeling ever on stage, but then also quite daunting at the same time, because it was just a lot, you know, and you didn't have the comfort of your laptop being there for lyrics if you wanted them to be, for example. But yeah, but it is great to be back doing what you love. You know, it's so great to be back, and I love live shows. I absolutely love them. You just, I think at some point there comes a point where you have to treat yourself and your music as a business. Otherwise you just end up losing so much money. You know, so there's festivals that pay like £50 for a full band, and I'm just like, I can't pay my session musicians £10 each. Are you kidding me? You know, I can't afford to do that.
Gas costs more than that right now.
Exactly. You know, and I'm just like, you know, I can take that £50 gig if it's just me and I decide to do that for me, because I think, you know, I might be in front of somebody who's important or whatever. But at the end of the day, you know, my rent costs a certain amount, and that's not going to be paid in exposures. It's paid by money, like everybody else. Like a plumber needs to be paid, like a, you know, so that's also something I've been really kind of trying to be really strict on the gigs that I do take, to make sure that I am covering every cost. Because for years, you know, and especially in the beginning, I just took whatever I could, you know, every opportunity there was, I was there, and I was just exhausted and had no money. So it was just, really tough. It's such a tough industry. You have to just really kind of be strict with yourself and put some boundaries in place, and just really kind of, literally be strict. That's what I'm trying to do at the moment. I'm trying to be businesswoman, you know?
And, you know, it's, for somebody that's naturally creative, it's really hard to have that transition and be like, okay, this is a business. We need to try and make money at any way we can without jeopardizing our creative balance and wanting to get out there and perform and interact with the people that support us. But on the other side, it's like, if I can't pay my bills this month, then what am I doing, you know? And I mean, for years I was really unsure about doing covers, you know, covers gigs in pubs or whatever, because I was just really kind of like, I just don't want to be doing covers, you know, I just really don't enjoy doing that. But then now I'm like, if covers are bread and butter, you know, and pay for my next single, then I need to do that. You know, that's what I need to do. And I guess that's something the pandemic taught me as well. You do whatever you need to do to get by, right? So my friend, she owns a bakery. So I literally took loads of shifts in her bakery to help her out as well, because it was just madness in the pandemic for her as well. You know, so I basically just did whatever I could to get through, started my own company in the social media vibe. And literally did whatever. So you found a way to survive, which is amazing. Like the fact that you were willing to take those bakery shifts to help out your friend, and the fact that she could afford to bring you in and pay you for your time is really awesome. Because I know here in the States, a lot of small businesses like that, they couldn't afford to bring anybody else on. So it was 9 times out of 10, it was the owner themselves kind of running everything, and just like, So
yeah, totally. In the beginning, I think that's what it was for them. And then I basically just said, if you have any shifts, I'd
Mhm.
love to,
Yeah.
I'd love to get some pocket money.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I did that. But then, you know, in the beginning, when I left university, I was working 5 jobs just to stay in London and do music at the same time. And I was exhausted. I was absolutely exhausted. And I just remember being so tired. And I wasn't enjoying anything because I was just so tired and working all these jobs just to do the one thing I love, you know. But yeah, you do make sacrifices, you know, you really do when it comes to music.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
You'd mentioned that you kind of balance doing like solo gigs and band gigs. What's kind of the percentage? Are you doing more solo gigs right now, or are you doing more full band gigs?
I would say mostly solo or duo.
Mhm.
Just because of money, you know, if the gig is £300, then that's good for 2 of us, but it's not good for a full band. So yeah, I just really, really want to make sure that the people who are playing with me get paid, basically, because you know, it's just not fair if they don't. It's just not fair. They're making a living and they're bringing something massive to my image, I suppose, and my band and my sound, so they deserve to be paid. End of story, really. So yeah, so mostly it's either solo or duo, but I love a full band gig. So we did the wedding last night full band, which was just epic.
Nice.
It was so good. It was such a good feeling.
Was that in London, or where was the full wedding?
It was, yeah, the wedding was in Nottingham. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it was great.
I'm not 100% familiar
kind of
with
like the middle of England.
Okay,
kind of.
gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm trying my best to learn as I bring in more UK artists, and it's like, all right, they say they're from here. Let me take a mental note of that, figure out like where on the map it is.
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny you brought up Jersey earlier, and beginning of the pandemic, we had a band from Jersey come on the podcast and chat, and
amazing.
So that was one place that I knew. And when you said that you had to fly over there, it's like, yep, that makes sense.
Oh, brilliant.
One quick, so anytime you went over to Jersey during the last couple of years, did you have to stay in quarantine every time?
Yeah, so I mean, the rules changed depending on where you were. So if you were in like a green country, an amber, but then they changed it to specific county. So I was at my mum and dad's in Northamptonshire. So that area one time was green, another time was amber, another time was red. So if it was red, I'd have to quarantine for 10 days and have a PCR test 3 times.
Yeah.
If it was amber, I'd have to quarantine for 5 and have 3 PCRs. If it was green, I'd have to have 2 PCRs and no quarantine, or quarantine until the first result.
Yeah.
So it was a massive faff, basically. Yeah.
That's kind of how it is at work right now, depending on what city you work in. Depends on if you have to go to work, if you have to wear a mask when you're at work. So like if we're green, we're good. We can walk in, not have to wear a mask. As long as we're vaccinated and whatnot. You don't have to wear a mask. But if you're yellow or red, then you got to wear a mask. Or
even now.
Yeah, even now.
Wow.
So it's luckily we've been, ever since we returned back from work, we've been green. So it's like, it's been good. But there's some cities that my company has offices in that have been red for the entire time. So it's man, that's just brutal.
Yeah. So, I mean, everything here is, there's no rules anymore, really.
Nice.
Apart from, I think some companies like opticians and dentists still like to wear a mask or whatever. But apart from that, they're pretty much gone.
Awesome. But you'd mentioned, so we were talking a little bit before about the full length album. I just kind of wanted to bring up, I think you're a lot closer to this album than you think you are. Like, especially if you look at like all the songs you've released over the last 6 years. 6 years. You know, even if you take out the EP that you released and just kind of everything from 2019 forward, I think you're a lot closer to this album than you think you are. And it's just trying to get over that, the mind scare that is, if we release a full album on Spotify, you know, it's I think it's also, I'd want to do it fully justice with the promotion, you know, with the PR, with everything that comes with, you know, everything, the recording and the writing and the recording
is the easiest part, really. It's everything else it comes with, you know, the PR, the booking the shows, the doing the album justice, you know, that is the bit that terrifies me, that I've you know, spent all this time and money and everything on this product that doesn't get the justice it deserves, you know. So yeah, that's definitely something I need to get over and just go for it. But maybe we'll see.
Completely understood.
Yeah.
So what's kind of the plan moving forward with the rest of 2022? You've got the new single that's out now, obviously. It's been a few days. What's going, like, it'd be interesting to find out what's going through your mind now as you look forward for the rest of 2022. Yeah.
So obviously the new single's out there, and I'm basically already thinking about the next one. You know, as soon as that single was done, I was already thinking what's next and when and what am I meant to be doing.
Before it was even released?
Yes. Yeah. As soon as I uploaded it, it was like, right, what's next? You know, and that, you know, that's just the way you have to be. You know, everybody wants new stuff all the time. So I'm just thinking about the next single. Have I written it yet? You know, is what I have written the right thing? You know, just thinking about that. And I basically just want to write loads of songs. I just want to write, and you know, work hard throughout the summer, you know, and the winter, like December, and hopefully release something before the new year, like something else. And that would be my goal, probably, to release one more song at least before the end of the year. And also I was toying with the idea of doing like an autumn tour, but obviously that would have to coincide with new music. So we will see what happens.
Awesome. Are you thinking more something towards the end of summer, or just kind of like whenever you feel like you have something ready?
I'm thinking maybe autumn.
Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah. So taking the summer to write and network and do all the things I've got to do and record whatever song it may be.
Awesome. So outside of music, like when you need to escape or just kind of decompress from life, what are your hobbies? What do you do outside of music?
I love running. I also love doing like HIIT workouts. I also love just walking, like spending time in nature. Like it's one of my huge hobbies. Or I also do cold water swimming whenever I'm in Jersey. So in the wind, like all year round, we go swimming every Sunday with a group of friends. And if I'm there, obviously I go, which is just, I think, really good for your mental health. And that's pretty much all the things that I love to do.
Nice.
And see friends and all of that jazz.
For sure. And it's an interesting common thread I've noticed with a lot of musicians is that they like to be outside, whether in nature or just being outside. What do you think the draw is? Why do you think that's such a common thread between all musicians?
I think being out in nature just gives you like clarity, kind of peace of mind, and helps you reconnect with your thoughts a little bit. That's what it does for me. It really just, because realistically, being a musician now, you're also a content creator. You're putting stuff out on all the social medias all the time, and you're comparing yourself all the time, because it's really hard to keep those blinkers on when you're scrolling through TikTok or whatever. And I think just leaving your phone at home and going outside in nature and reconnecting with your true self and what you are doing, what you want to be doing, where you want to be, you know, be in 5 years time or 6 months time or whatever, just really massively helps. It also traveling and being out in nature and connecting with people is what makes you feel inspired again. You know, whatever reignites your inspire flame, I suppose, is what I think is really most important to do. So traveling is another one, like just having some space from being at home or being in the areas you usually are can just completely open up a different world of ideas in your mind.
And as you say that all makes sense, because like the idea of disconnecting yourself from everything and just kind of being with yourself would be a very huge draw for me if I were a musician. Like just being a creative in general, like I enjoy going to sit out on the back porch because I live right in front of a dry riverbed. So just kind of going out there and listening to the birds chirp and just
Yeah.
kind of being out there. It's really peaceful and just kind of
Mm-hmm.
calms me down from the noise of everything. So
Yeah, exactly. And I think as well, when you do music and say you do a live show and then you're like high on this adrenaline afterwards, right? And then eventually you come down or whatever, and then you go to sleep or whatever. And then going back out into nature to reconnect and kind of takes away some of that adrenaline and just kind of restores you, recharges your own battery. And I think that's so important, especially if you're a vocalist, because, if you're tired, you're going to hear that when you sing. You just literally are. Like, if you're tired or dehydrated and haven't drank enough water, the vocal cords are the last thing that get hydrated. So you have to just be on it all the time.
That's one thing I learned early on during the pandemic was I needed to drink a lot more water. And so now it's always, here we go. But no, that's really cool and amazing. One thing that I want to do, because I don't want to take up much more of your time because it is Sunday afternoon for you. I'm sure the weather's, what's the weather like right now usually in the UK? Is it nice compared to what it usually is, or is it raining?
It's okay right now. Like, it's sunny, cloudy, but like 12 degrees. But I mean, it's supposed to be nicer in the summer, but it kind of, in the UK, it does rain a lot. Like, it's true what they say, it does rain a lot, but like drizzle rain, not like pouring rain.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of like you just don't know what you're going to get each day at the moment, to be honest.
Like, for anybody listening, she means 12 degrees Celsius, not Fahrenheit.
Yes.
For all the American listeners out there. Because I heard that and I was like, yep, clarify that one for anybody that doesn't realize. But that's awesome. So before I kind of wrap this up, we have a game that we like to play on our podcast. It is called Rapid Fire Randomness. Okay. So I have a random question generator sitting right in front of me, and we're going to just rapid fire off some of these questions and just answer them as quickly as you can. Don't put too much thought into it because this isn't the SATs. But just it's fun, lighthearted. So if you're ready, we'll start going. What would cause you to want to shut off a movie or show?
Somebody talking or eating popcorn too loudly.
Would you consider yourself more of a dreamer or a doer?
Both, I'd say. Is that allowed?
Yeah, that's fair. When on a Zoom meeting, do you typically have your video on or off?
Usually on.
What do you love most about your significant other?
His laid backness. I love it and I hate it. I love it most of the time, hate it some of the time.
you love to hate it? Is that? Yeah. Would you rather be invincible to extreme heat or extreme cold?
Ooh, extreme cold. Explore. Yeah.
Ooh, this is a nice deep one. So hopefully this doesn't take too long to answer, but why is your best friend your best friend?
There's many reasons. Mostly, I think selflessness, generosity, and kindness. Those are the main three qualities I would say that I'm just grateful for in my best friend.
If you had to write a biography about yourself, what would it say? Or what would some of the highlights be? Let's kind of keep it more concise question.
I think if I had to write a biography, I would do it with a subject. So I would go and do all these like 10 challenges, and then I'd write how I found each challenge and what I learned about myself along the way. Something cool like that. It would have to be planned and interesting.
Gotcha. Awesome. By default, are you more introverted or extroverted?
I'm definitely a people person. I'd probably say extroverted, but then some days I'm just like, no, nobody bother me. So maybe like 60-40 or 70-30.
Gotcha. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Would you rather live without color or without taste?
Oh no. I love food, but I love color. I'd go without taste. Go without taste because I love color too much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For me, it'd have to almost be taste, because in that way I'd start eating better and not have to worry about it.
Well, exactly. Yeah, that's true. It's a good way of thinking.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Would would you okay, we'll end it on this question. Would you rather know when you're going to die or how you're going to die?
Ooh, probably how. I'd rather know how than when, I think.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And that's rapid fire randomness.
These are great questions.
A lot of new questions this week or this podcast, and we've never had any of those questions, which is funny and cool. The fact that they're updating the database makes it interesting. So awesome. But I really enjoyed the time we've had with you. For anybody, what's your upcoming show schedule looking like? Are you playing once a week, twice a week? What is your schedule looking like right now?
I am currently just planning the next shows. So I don't have a specific schedule. For my original stuff. For covers, I'm playing quite often, but for originals, which are the best shows to come out to,
awesome.
they'll be updated on my website soon.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I'm hoping to make it out to the UK in September.
Oh, cool.
That is that's the furthest I've planned right now, just because to get to the UK, there's a couple of things that I have to do before I can. That's not something I can do in a week or in a quick turn like that. We're hoping to come out and attend the British Country Music Festival.
Nice. Cool.
That's what we're hoping. Like, somebody brought it up to me and was like, "Oh, let me go look at the lineup," and I knew like 5 or 6 people on there, and I was like, "That'd be cool. Like, let me see if I can make this work." And luckily, a trip to London isn't as expensive as I thought it would be. It's still expensive, great. Don't get me wrong, but it's like instead of a couple of $1,000 US, it's not quite that bad. So
yeah, brilliant. That's good.
Awesome. But if anybody wants to check out your music or interact with you on socials or find your upcoming show schedule, where's the best place to do that?
Yep. So on all social media, I'm Emily Faye Music. Pretty much, if you just type in Emily Faye Music, I'll come up, and my website will come up as well. That's where you can find me.
Awesome. Except on Facebook, you're the Emily Faye Music.
I know. Emily Faye Music was already stolen on Facebook, so I had to do the Emily Faye Music.
every time I was posting it on Facebook that we had the podcast coming up, I was like, Emily Faye Music, why isn't it popping up? And then I have to go back and like, oh, the Emily Faye.
Yeah, I had to keep you on your toes, you know.
And then of course I go to like Twitter and all that stuff, and it's like, oh, Emily Faye Music, it works like it should. But it's funny. And then one last question: what advice do you have for the young musicians out there?
I would say stay authentic to you. Focus, put your blinkers on and focus on you and your journey, and what's meant for you is meant for you. What's meant for someone else is meant for them. And just work hard to create. Working hard creates opportunity, then you can take the opportunities. But nothing will come to you. You have to work hard. Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's been an absolute blast chatting with you. Really enjoyed this conversation. Anytime you want to come back on, feel free to reach out or have Rachel or, whoever. Would definitely love to have you back on. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you're watching us live on Twitch right now, feel free to give us a follow if you're not following us, or you could find the podcast if you came in the middle or missed something. The podcast will be released tomorrow or May 30th for the people that aren't watching this live. It'll be released on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, all the podcasting platforms, and we will definitely be posting it on social and all that stuff. But once again, Emily, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's been an absolute blast. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we will catch you all later.